A woman I'll call Margaret came into my office on a Tuesday afternoon. She was 62 years old. She had worked her whole life, 38 years, as a nurse in a New York hospital. She sat down across from me, put a piece of paper on the desk, and said, "Anderson, I just filed for Social Security. I start getting checks next month." I looked at the paper, then I looked at her, and I said something that no one had said to her before. "Margaret, did anyone walk you through what this decision means? Not just for next month, but for the next 25 years? She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I thought you just filed." In 5 years of advising clients on retirement, that is the sentence I heard most often. "I thought you just filed." The Social Security Administration will process your claim in 15 minutes. They will not tell you what that decision will cost you if you get the timing wrong. And for most people, this is the single most consequential financial decision of their retirement. That is what we are going to talk about today. I'm Anderson. I spent 5 years as a financial advisor in New York, working with families through retirement planning, Social Security strategy, and Medicare decisions. I started this channel because I kept seeing the same mistakes made by good, hard-working people, simply because nobody had sat down and explained the rules. So that is what we do here. No jargon, no agenda, no alarm. Just what I would tell you if you were sitting across the desk from me right now. If that sounds useful, subscribe and hit the bell. Social Security rules change every single year, and when they do, I'll explain exactly what it means for your check before it affects you. Now let's get into it. Here is the first thing most people get wrong about this decision. They ask, what is the best age to claim Social Security? That is the wrong question. The right question is, given my health, my finances, my spouse's situation, and how long I expect to live, what is the right age for me? Because here is the truth that Social Security will not put in any brochure. There is no single right answer for everyone, but there are 3 numbers you need to understand, and once you understand them, your personal answer becomes much clearer. Those 3 numbers are 62, 67, and 70, and the difference between getting this right and getting it wrong over a lifetime can be more than $160,000. Let's start with 62, because that is where most people begin the conversation. Age 62 is the earliest you can claim Social Security retirement benefits. And every year, millions of Americans file as soon as they become eligible, often without fully understanding what that means for the rest of their life. Here is what it means in real numbers. If your full retirement age is 67, which it is for anyone born in 1960 or later, claiming at 62 permanently reduces your monthly benefit by 30%. I want you to sit with that word, permanently. That reduction does not go away. It does not catch up later. It stays with you for the rest of your life. Let me put real dollars on that. If your full benefit at 67 would be $2,000 a month, claiming at 62 gives you $1,400 a month instead. That is $600 less, every single month, forever. Over 20 years of retirement, which is a realistic life expectancy for a healthy 62-year-old today, that $600 difference adds up to $144,000, and that is before we account for COLA increases, which compound on top of a lower base every single year. Now let's talk about age 67, because this is the number Social Security calls your full retirement age, CAS or FRA. At 67, you receive your complete benefit, the number on your Social Security statement. No reduction, no penalty. In our example, that is $2,000 a month. This is the baseline. Everything else is measured against it. Claim before 67 and you get less. Wait past 67 and you get more. It is that straightforward as a principle, though the personal decision, as I'll explain in a moment, is not always straightforward at all, which brings us to age 70. And this is where the math gets genuinely interesting. For every year you delay claiming Social Security past your full retirement age, the government increases your benefit by 8%. That is a guaranteed 8% increase, not tied to the stock market, not subject to inflation volatility, just 8% per year for waiting. From 67 to 70 is 3 years. 3 times 8% is 24% more. In our example, a $2,000 full benefit becomes $2,480 at age 70. That is an extra $480 a month, every month, for the rest of your life. And because COLA, the annual cost of living adjustment, applies as a percentage of your base benefit, starting at a higher base means every future raise is worth more in real dollars too. The compounding effect of starting higher is significant over 20 or 25 years. Now here is the question I know you are already asking. If waiting until 70 gives you more per month, but you miss 8 years of checks getting there, when does waiting actually pay off? This is called the break-even point, and it is the most honest way to look at this entire decision. Using our example, $1,400 a month at 62 versus $2,480 a month at 70 Rs. The person who claimed at 62 has a head start of roughly $134,000 in cumulative benefits by the time the 70 claimer receives their first check. But the 70 claimer is now collecting $1,080 more per month. At that rate, it takes approximately 10 years to catch up. That puts the break-even at around age 80. What that means is this: if you live past 80, waiting produces significantly more lifetime income. If you do not expect to reach 80, claiming earlier is the financially rational decision. The Social Security Administration will not tell you this. They will process your application. They will not ask how long you expect to live. Now, I want to give you something that no calculator can give you. The 3 questions I asked every single client who sat across from me before making any recommendation on this decision, because the math alone does not tell the whole story. Your life does. The first question is, can you afford to wait? This is the practical foundation. If you stop working at 62 and you have no other income, no pension, no 401k, no savings to draw from, waiting may not be a realistic option, and that is completely okay. Claiming early when you genuinely need the income is not a mistake. It is a rational response to your reality. But if you have other assets, a 401k, an IRA, a spouse who is still working, the question becomes whether you can draw from those for a few years while your Social Security benefit continues to grow. Sometimes the math strongly favors that approach. It is worth sitting down and running the actual numbers before you assume you cannot wait. The second question is, what is your health picture? I want to be careful here, because no one can predict the future, and I would never tell someone to factor in a certainty that does not exist. But this is a real and honest consideration. If you have a serious health condition, if longevity is not realistically on your side, claiming earlier protects you from the very real risk of waiting a long time and then not being there to collect the larger check. On the other hand, if you are in good health at 62 or 63, if your parents lived into their 80s and 90s, if you exercise, if you don't smoke, statistically, you have a meaningful chance of living well past that age 80 break-even. In that case, the math of patience is very much working in your favor. The third question, and this is the one most people forget entirely, is, are you married, and what does your spouse's benefit picture look like? Because when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse keeps the larger of the 2 monthly benefits permanently. So if you are the higher earner in your marriage and you claim at 62 at a reduced rate, you may be locking in a lower survivor benefit for your spouse for decades after you are gone. I have seen this cost surviving spouses hundreds of dollars a month for 15, 20 years. It is one of the most important and most overlooked parts of this entire decision. If you are married, this is not just your claiming decision, it is your family's decision. Margaret, The nurse I told you about at the beginning of this video had a husband who was still working. She was in good health. She had a small 401k she could draw from for a few years. When we sat down and ran her actual numbers, waiting just 2 more years, filing at 64 instead of 62, was worth an additional $89,000 over her expected lifetime. She went home, thought about it, and called me back the following week. She had withdrawn her application within the 12-month window that Social Security allows for exactly this situation. She waited until 64. She told me later it was the best financial decision she made in retirement. That is what sitting down with the right information can do for you. So before you make any claiming decision, before you call Social Security, before you file online, before you do anything, there is one step that takes 15 minutes and can be worth thousands of dollars. Go to SSA.gov. Create your My Social Security account if you don't already have one. It is free, it is secure, and it takes about 10 minutes to set up. Once you are inside, open your Social Security statement and look for 2 numbers. The first is your PIA, your primary insurance amount. That is your full monthly benefit at your full retirement age. It is the baseline for every calculation in this video. The second thing to look at is your earnings history, year by year. Social Security calculates your benefit based on your 35 highest earning years. Errors happen. Employers submit incorrect payroll data. Records get lost. According to SSA's own data, one incorrect year in your earnings record can reduce your monthly benefit by approximately $100. Check every single year on that statement. If something does not match what you know you earned, file a correction now, while you still have access to your W-2s, your old tax returns, your pay records. The older the error, the harder it is to correct. So, when should you claim Social Security? Here is my honest answer. After 5 years of having this conversation with real people in real situations. If you are in good health, have a spouse, and have any other assets to draw from, waiting as long as you reasonably can is almost always the right move. The math is strongly in your favor, and the lifetime difference is significant. If you are in poor health, have no other income source, or genuinely need the money now, claiming earlier is not a mistake. It is a rational, legitimate decision that I would support completely. And if you are somewhere in the middle, which most people are, the answer is not 62, not 70, but somewhere in between, based on your specific numbers and your specific life. What I want you to take away from this video is not a rule, it is a framework. Check your statement. Know your PIA. Know your full retirement age. Answer those 3 questions honestly, then make the decision based on your life. Not based on what your neighbor did. Not based on a headline that scared you. And not based on pressure to file before you fully understand what you are deciding. That is what Margaret did. And it made a real difference. In the next video, I'm going to walk you through something that affects millions of Americans and almost nobody checks. Your Social Security earnings record. One error in that record can reduce your monthly check by $100 for life, and SSA will not catch it for you. If this video helped you today, share it with someone you know who is approaching this decision. A parent, a sibling, a friend. One conversation with the right information can genuinely change someone's retirement. Subscribe if you haven't, hit the bell, and I will see you in the next one.